James's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter for the third time that morning. I watched him glance at it, smile slightly, then slide it into his pocket without a word. 6 months ago, that would have hurt. 6 months ago, I would have asked who was texting. But that morning, I just poured my coffee and watched him leave for work. I had already made my decision. The suitcase hidden in my closet was half packed. My savings account, the one he didn't know about, had enough for first and last month's rent. I had copied our financial documents, photographed our assets, and consulted a lawyer. I wasn't staying to fight. I was leaving to survive. I had stopped crying 3 weeks earlier when I found the hotel receipt in his jacket. I had stopped asking questions 2 weeks before that when he started working late every single night. The woman's name was Claudia. I knew because he said it in his sleep. I spent that afternoon organizing my exit like I was planning a business trip. I made lists, I checked accounts, I researched apartments across town where he wouldn't accidentally see me. I wasn't interested in confrontation or drama. I just wanted out. Clean. Quiet. Final. My best friend Maya thought I was too calm. "You should scream at him," she said over the phone. "You should throw his clothes on the lawn." But I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. I wanted to wake up without wondering where he really was. I wanted to stop pretending I believed his lies. That evening, James came home late again, smelling like expensive perfume that wasn't mine. He kissed my forehead like nothing was wrong. I smiled back. Because in 2 days, I would be gone, and he would come home to an empty house and a note on the table. The doorbell rang at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. James was still at work, or wherever he actually went. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and saw a man I didn't recognize. Tall, dark hair, wearing a business suit. He didn't look threatening. He looked tired. I opened the door cautiously, keeping the chain lock on. "Can I help you?" I asked. He met my eyes with the kind of look that said he already knew too much. "My name is Philip," he said quietly. "I'm Claudia's husband." My stomach dropped. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. He raised his hands slightly, like he was calming a frightened animal. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said. "I just need to talk to you. 5 minutes, please." I should have closed the door. I should have told him to leave. But something in his voice made me pause, so I unlocked the chain and let him in. Philip sat on my couch like he had done this before. Calm, controlled. He didn't fidget or avoid eye contact. He just looked at me and said, "I know about the affair." I didn't bother denying it. "How long have you known?" I asked. 4 months, he said. Maybe longer. I started noticing small things, late meetings, new clothes, a second phone she thought I didn't see. I leaned back in my chair, studying him. He didn't look broken. He didn't look angry. He looked like someone who had made a decision and was simply waiting for the right moment to execute it. "Why are you here?" I asked. He smiled slightly, but there was no warmth in it. "Because I think we want the same thing," he said, "and I think we can help each other get it." I should have felt uncomfortable, but instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. I felt like I wasn't alone. Philip didn't waste time. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and placed it on the coffee table between us. "I've been tracking their movements for 3 months," he said. "Hotels, restaurants, cash withdrawals, messages they thought were deleted." He opened the folder. Inside were printed screenshots, bank statements, and calendar entries. Dates, times, locations. He had been watching them the way a detective watches a suspect. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Because they're not just having an affair," Philip said. "They're planning something bigger." He slid a bank statement toward me. I recognized James's account number immediately. There were transfers I had never seen before. Large amounts moving to an account I didn't recognize. "That's a joint account," Philip said. "James and Claudia opened it 6 weeks ago. They're pooling money." My chest tightened. This wasn't just an affair. This was an exit strategy. I stared at the bank statement, trying to process what I was seeing. "They're planning to leave together," I said slowly. Philip nodded. "I believe so. Claudia has been researching cities across the country. She's been looking at apartments, jobs, new lives, and judging by these transfers, James is funding it." I felt cold. I had been planning to leave quietly, to walk away with my dignity intact, but James was planning to leave first and take everything with him. "What do you want from me?" I asked. Philip leaned forward slightly. I want leverage, he said. And so do you. If you leave now, you lose everything. If I confront them now, I lose everything. But if we work together, if we stay quiet and gather what we need, we can make sure they're the ones who lose. I should have said no. I should have thrown him out and stuck to my plan. But I didn't, because he was right. Philip laid out his plan like he was presenting a business proposal. No emotion, just strategy. We don't confront them, he said. We don't threaten them. We stay silent, stay calm, and we collect evidence, every message, every transaction, every lie. I listened, my mind racing. Why not just leave? I asked. Why go through all this? Philip's expression didn't change. Because leaving quietly means they win. They get to start over with no consequences while we pick up the pieces. But if we do this right, if we're patient, we can make sure they face every consequence they've earned. He was offering me something I hadn't considered. Not revenge exactly, but justice. Control. The power to decide how this ended, instead of letting them decide for me. I thought about the suitcase in my closet, the apartment I'd been researching, the quiet exit I had planned. And then I thought about James smiling at his phone, about Claudia's name on his lips while he slept. What do I have to do? I asked. The rules were simple. I stayed in my marriage. I acted normal. I smiled at James, cooked dinner, asked about his day. I pretended I believed him when he said he was working late. I pretended I didn't notice the perfume, or the new shirts, or the way he checked his phone constantly. Meanwhile, Philip stayed in his marriage too. He went to work, came home, kissed Claudia goodnight. He played the role of the unsuspecting husband perfectly. But we weren't unsuspecting. We were gathering. Philip had access to Claudia's laptop. I had access to James's home office. Between us, we built a file that would destroy them both. Emails proving the affair, bank records showing the transfers, text messages discussing their future together. Screenshots of apartment listings they had saved. We met once a week at a coffee shop across town. We never texted. We never called. We just traded information like two business partners working toward a shared goal. The hardest part wasn't gathering evidence. It was pretending. Every morning, I woke up next to James and smiled like I didn't know what he was doing. Every evening, I asked about his day and listened to his lies. How was work? I would ask. Busy, he would say. Lots of meetings. I would nod and serve dinner, and inside I would be screaming. But I didn't break. I didn't slip. Because Philip was right. Silence was our weapon. The moment they knew, they would adapt. They would cover their tracks, move their money, change their plans. Our only advantage was that they thought we were stupid. They thought we believed them. So I played stupid. I played trusting. And every time James kissed me goodnight, I thought about the file growing thicker in Philip's briefcase. About the moment when we would finally stop pretending. That thought kept me going. James and Claudia grew careless. That was the thing about confidence. It made people reckless. They stopped deleting messages. They stopped checking over their shoulders. James left his phone unlocked on the bathroom counter one morning. I scrolled through it quickly, my hands shaking. The messages were explicit, detailed, planning their new life together like I didn't exist. Just a few more months, James had written. Then we're free. Claudia had responded with a heart emoji. I took screenshots and sent them to a burner email Philip and I shared. Then I deleted the sent messages and put his phone back exactly where he left it. When James came out of the shower, I was making breakfast. Morning, I said brightly. He smiled at me like I was the most convenient person in his life. Morning, he said. He had no idea I had just sealed his fate. Philip brought new information to our next meeting. Claudia had opened a credit card in her name with a $50,000 limit. She was using it to buy furniture for an apartment they hadn't moved into yet. She's decorating their future, Philip said, sliding receipts across the table. Couch, bed, kitchen table. All charged to a card I'm not supposed to know about. I felt sick. This wasn't just an affair, it was a fully planned life. How are you holding up? I asked. Philip looked tired for the first time since I met him. Some days are harder than others, he admitted. But I remind myself why I'm doing this. They don't get to erase us and start over like we never mattered. I nodded. I felt the same way. We weren't just gathering evidence. We were reclaiming our dignity. That night, I gave Philip copies of James's financial records, accounts he thought I didn't know about, investments he had been quietly moving. Philip studied them carefully. He's hiding assets, he said. If you divorce him now, he'll claim poverty and you'll get nothing. But if we wait, if we document everything, he won't be able to hide a single dollar. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Then we wait, I said. Claudia made a mistake in week 7. She posted a photo on social media. It was subtle. A picture of a sunset from a hotel balcony with a caption about new beginnings. But Philip recognized the view. It was the same hotel where James had used our credit card 3 weeks earlier. He showed me the post at our next meeting. She's bragging, he said. She thinks she's won. I studied the photo. The sunset was beautiful. The balcony overlooked the city. James had probably stood right there next to her, holding her hand, imagining their future. Let her think she's won, I said quietly. It'll make the fall worse. Philip looked at me with something like respect. You've changed, he said. I had. The woman who packed that suitcase 6 months ago would have just left. She would have walked away and tried to rebuild. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I was the woman who stayed, who waited, who learned that patience wasn't weakness, it was power. Money always leaves a trail. That was what my lawyer told me during our second consultation. I brought her everything Philip and I had gathered. Bank records, transfer receipts, screenshots of James's hidden accounts. She studied the documents with sharp eyes. This is good, she said. This is very good. If you filed for divorce right now, he could claim these accounts don't exist. But you have proof. Dates, amounts, everything. I felt a surge of satisfaction. What about the affair? I asked. She nodded. The affair strengthens your case, but the financial deception is what will destroy him. Judges don't like spouses who hide assets. It suggests intent to defraud. She looked up at me. You've done impressive work here. Most people don't think this clearly when they're going through something like this. I didn't tell her about Philip. I just smiled and said, I had help. When I left her office, I felt lighter than I had in months. James thought he was planning an escape. He didn't know he was building his own cage. Claudia grew bolder. She started showing up at places she knew I would be, the grocery store, the coffee shop, the gym. She never spoke to me. She just watched. Once I caught her staring at me from across the produce section, a small smile on her face. She thought she had won. She thought I was the pathetic wife who didn't know her husband was leaving. I smiled back. Because what Claudia didn't know was that I had copies of every credit card statement, every hotel reservation, every message she had sent James talking about how excited she was to finally be free. Philip told me she was doing the same thing to him, acting like everything was normal while secretly planning her exit. She asked me about taking a vacation next month, he said, somewhere tropical. Just the two of us. He laughed bitterly. She's pretending to love me while planning to leave me. How much longer? I asked. Philip checked his watch. 2 weeks, he said. Then we move. James started to relax. That was his biggest mistake. He stopped being careful. He left his laptop open on the kitchen table one afternoon. I sat down and scrolled through his emails while he was in the shower. There were hundreds of messages between him and Claudia. Planning, scheming, dreaming. I can't wait to wake up next to you every morning, one message said. Another, Anita has no idea, she's too trusting. I felt my hands shake with rage, but I didn't close the laptop, I didn't scream. I copied every single email to the burner account Philip and I used. Then I closed the laptop and went back to folding laundry. When James came downstairs, I was humming. You seem happy, he said. I smiled at him. I am, I said. And I was. Because in 2 weeks, he would realize exactly how much of a mistake he had made. People often confuse calm with ignorance. They think if you're not yelling, you don't know. If you're not crying, you don't care. James thought I was clueless. Claudia thought I was weak. Even Philip's friends had asked him why he wasn't confronting his wife. Because confrontation gives them time to prepare, Philip told me. Silence keeps them comfortable, and comfortable people make mistakes. He was right. James had stopped covering his tracks. Claudia had stopped pretending to be careful. They thought they were invisible. They thought they were smarter than us. But they weren't smarter. They were just louder. And loud people don't notice the quiet ones taking notes. That week, James came home with a new watch. Expensive, silver. the kind he would never buy for himself. "Where did you get that?" I asked casually. "Bonus from work," he said without blinking. I nodded and smiled, but I knew the truth. Claudia had bought it for him, with the credit card Philip was tracking. Nothing escaped us anymore. The first crack appeared on a Wednesday morning. James received an email from his bank about a frozen account. I watched him open it at breakfast, watched his face go pale. "Everything okay?" I asked innocently. He forced a smile. "Yeah, just some banking error. I'll fix it." But it wasn't an error. Philip's lawyer had flagged one of the joint accounts James and Claudia had opened. It wasn't frozen yet, just flagged, pending review for suspicious activity. It was a warning shot, a reminder that someone was watching. James spent the entire day on the phone with the bank. I could hear him in his office, voice tight with stress. When he came out, he looked exhausted. "How was your day?" I asked. "Fine," he snapped. Then he caught himself, softened. "Sorry, just work stress." I patted his arm sympathetically. "It's okay," I said. "I'm here if you need to talk." He didn't talk, but Claudia did. Philip told me she called James 17 times that day, panicking about the account. They were starting to realize something was wrong. But they didn't know what. Not yet. Panic looks ugly on people who are used to being in control. James started snapping at me for no reason. The dishes weren't done fast enough. Dinner was too salty. I was watching too much television. He was unraveling, and he couldn't hide it anymore. Claudia was worse. Philip said she had stopped eating, stopped sleeping. She kept checking her phone obsessively, convinced someone was tracking them. "Do you think they know?" she had asked James in a message Philip showed me. "No way," James had responded. "We've been careful." But they hadn't been careful. They had been stupid. That week, another account got flagged, then another. The walls were closing in, and they could feel it. James came home one evening and poured himself a drink at 3 in the afternoon. "Rough day?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just stared at his phone like it was a bomb about to explode. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I wasn't the one who got exposed. I was the one holding all the copies. While James and Claudia panicked, Philip and I stayed calm. We had backup files, cloud storage, physical copies locked in safety deposit boxes they didn't know existed. Every email, every text, every bank transfer, every lie. If they deleted something, we had it saved. If they tried to cover their tracks, we had already documented the original trail. My lawyer told me I had enough to bury James in court. Philip's lawyer said the same about Claudia. "You could file tomorrow," my lawyer said, "and you would win, decisively." But I didn't file, not yet, because Philip and I had agreed. We would wait until the moment hurt the most, until they felt safest, until they thought they had gotten away with it. That was when we would strike. That was when they would finally understand what it felt like to lose everything. Everything changed the day the lawyers started asking questions. James received a formal letter from my attorney requesting full financial disclosure as part of divorce proceedings. He hadn't known I filed. He stared at the letter like it was written in a foreign language. "Anita," he said slowly. "What is this?" I looked up from my book, calm. "I filed for divorce," I said simply. 3 weeks ago. His face went white. You what?" "I'm leaving you, James. I've known about Claudia for months, and I'm taking everything you tried to hide." He stood there, frozen, as everything collapsed around him. Across town, Philip was serving Claudia with her own divorce papers. Papers that included every transaction, every message, every lie she thought she had buried. The plan was in motion, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. James and Claudia still tried to maintain appearances. They posted smiling photos on social media, they went to dinner parties, they acted like everything was fine. But I could see the fear in James's eyes. He knew what was coming. He just didn't know when. Claudia was the same. Philip said she had hired an expensive lawyer, someone who specialized in protecting assets during divorce. But it wouldn't matter. We had documented everything. Every hidden account, every secret transfer, every plan they thought was private. Their lawyers could try to spin it, but they couldn't erase it. One evening, James tried to talk to me. "Anita," he said quietly, "can we discuss this? Maybe we can work something out?" I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man I had loved, the man I had trusted, the man who had betrayed me. "There's nothing to work out," I said. "You made your choice. Now you live with it. I packed my bags for the second time, but this time it was different. This time I wasn't running. I was walking away with my head high, with my finances secured, with my future protected. Philip helped me move into my new apartment. It was small but mine, paid for with money James couldn't touch. How does it feel? Philip asked. I looked around the empty living room and smiled. Like freedom, I said. He nodded. Claudia moved out yesterday, he said. Took half the furniture and left. Didn't even say goodbye. We stood there in silence for a moment. Two people who had been strangers 6 months ago. Two people who had become allies. Thank you, I said. Philip shook his head. We helped each other, he said. That's all. He was right. Neither of us could have done this alone. But together, we had won. The divorce proceedings moved quickly. James tried to hide assets, but we had already documented them all. He tried to claim poverty, but we had screenshots of every luxury purchase. He tried to paint me as vindictive, but the judge saw the evidence. The affair, the deception, the financial fraud. Mr. Sullivan, the judge said sternly, you have shown a pattern of deliberate deception. This court does not look favorably upon spouses who attempt to defraud their partners. James got 30% of our shared assets. I got 70, plus the house, plus my retirement accounts he had tried to drain, plus alimony for 3 years. His lawyer tried to appeal. It was denied. Across town, Philip's divorce went the same way. Claudia got nothing. Her expensive lawyer couldn't save her from her own emails, her own bank statements, her own words. They had destroyed themselves. We just documented it. 6 months after I moved out, I ran into James at a coffee shop. He looked older, tired, defeated. He saw me and froze. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he walked over to my table. Anita, he said quietly, can I sit? I gestured to the empty chair. He sat down, hands wrapped around a coffee cup. I made a mistake, he said. A huge mistake. I thought I wanted something else. I thought I wanted her, but I was wrong. I didn't say anything. I just watched him. I lost everything, he continued. My savings, the house, my reputation. Claudia left me the moment the money ran out. She's with someone else now. I took a sip of my coffee. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I was. Not because I still loved him, but because I could see what he had become. A man who had gambled everything and lost. He looked at me with desperate eyes. Do you think? Is there any chance we could try again? I smiled sadly. No, James, I said. That door is closed. A year after everything ended, I met Philip for coffee one last time. We hadn't spoken in months. We didn't need to. Our alliance had served its purpose. How are you? He asked. I smiled. Good, really good. I started my own business. I'm traveling. I'm happy. He nodded. I'm glad. What about you? I asked. I'm okay, he said. Dating again, slowly, carefully, learning to trust again. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Two people who had been broken and had rebuilt themselves. You know what's strange? I said. I thought they destroyed me. I thought the affair was the worst thing that could happen. Philip raised an eyebrow. And? I smiled. And I was wrong. They didn't destroy me. They freed me. They showed me I was stronger than I ever knew. That I didn't need them. That I could survive on my own. Philip raised his coffee cup. To surviving, he said. I clinked my cup against his. To more than surviving, I said. To thriving. Because that was the truth. James and Claudia thought they had won. They thought their affair was the end of my story. But they were wrong. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the life I was always meant to live.